She wrote about monsters, interviewed them, got inside their heads. Jillian Lauren wasn't just a true crime author, she was the voice uncovering America's darkest secrets. But then one day, the gun was in her hand, and the blood was hers. What the hell happened? This is the story of how a best-selling crime writer went from chasing serial killers to becoming the prime suspect herself. You're watching crimepulse series where truth is always stranger than fiction. Hit that subscribe button now because this is just the beginning. Jillian Lauren made a name for herself by diving deep into the minds of killers. She wasn't just another true crime writer. She was the woman who sat face to face with Samuel Little, America's most prolific serial killer. Her best-selling book, Behold the Monster, wasn't just about gore. It was about empathy, justice, and giving a voice to the forgotten victims. She was praised for her bravery, her insight, and her ability to navigate the darkest corners of humanity without losing herself. But on April 8th, 2025, the roles flipped. In a quiet Los Angeles neighborhood, Jillian Lauren, now 51 years old, was seen stepping into her own crime story. Police were in pursuit of suspects from a hit and run when they reportedly encountered Lauren in the backyard of her home. She was holding a 9mm handgun. Officers shouted at her to drop the weapon. According to LAPD reports and body cam footage, she didn't. She allegedly raised the gun and fired. Police fired back, striking her once in the shoulder. What followed was chaos. She fled back into her home, bleeding. Moments later, she surrendered. The woman who once hunted serial killers was now under arrest for attempted murder of a police officer. Charged, booked, released on $1 million bail. And suddenly, Jillian Lauren wasn't behind the pen anymore. She was behind bars. Before she became a true crime powerhouse, Jillian Lauren was already living a life that read like fiction. In her 2010 memoir, Some Girls, My Life in a Harem, she revealed a jaw-dropping chapter of her youth between 1992 and 1995. Jillian was one of many paid party guests flown to Brunei to entertain Prince Jeffrey Bolkiah, the brother of the Sultan. She was just 18 when she entered that world, and what she saw inside the royal harem was opulence, secrecy, and power dynamics that shaped her understanding of exploitation and survival. That book put her on the map. It wasn't just scandalous, it was raw, reflective, and brutally honest. Critics praised her vulnerability and voice. She became known not just as a survivor, but as a writer unafraid to expose uncomfortable truths. In the years that followed, Jillian shifted from memoirist to literary force. She married Scott Schreiner, bassist of the iconic band Weezer, in 2005. The two became fixtures in Laz creative circles, she in bookstores and panel talks, he on stage at Coachella and international tours. Together, they were a blend of rock and intellect. Red carpets, book launches, charity events. She was no longer just the girl from the harem. She was now a respected voice in American letters, a woman who turned trauma into power and stories into platforms. But behind the elegance of her new life, something darker may have still lingered. Jillian Lauren wasn't just writing about killers, she was diving headfirst into their world. Her most acclaimed work, Behold the Monster, wasn't crafted from second-hand research or old case files. It was built from hours of direct interviews with Samuel Little, the man the FBI later confirmed as America's most prolific serial killer, responsible for at least 93 murders. She looked him in the eye. She asked him about the women. She pushed for details the justice system had missed. And more importantly, she listened. Jillian didn't just chase notoriety, she chased closure. She fought to identify victims. The system had forgotten many of them women of color, sex workers, or addicts. Her writing gave them names, stories, and dignity. And in doing so, she walked a razor's edge between empathy and obsession. But spending years immersed in evil takes a toll. In interviews, Jillian often talked about the psychological weight of her work, how dreams blurred with memories, how the darkness crept into her daily life. She admitted that speaking with Little was like sitting across from the devil but needing him to confess. Did this prolonged exposure to trauma and twisted minds alter her own perception of danger? Did years of confronting killers from a safe seat behind the tape recorder desensitize her until one day, holding a gun in her own backyard, the threat felt abstract? Or did the storyteller simply become part of the story she couldn't put down? In 2005, Jillian Lauren married Scott Schreiner, bassist for the legendary rock band Weezer, a union that seemed, from the outside, like a perfect blend of brains and buzz. She was the bold, reflective writer with a haunting past and a sharp pen. He was the touring rock star, playing sold-out arenas across the globe. Together, they looked like an indie power couple pulled from the pages of Rolling Stone. Their life was public enough to sparkle, but private enough to raise questions. On Instagram and in interviews, Jillian often spoke with warmth and pride about their marriage, about how they supported each other's careers, how they navigated the chaotic worlds of music and publishing side by side. Photos of them at book signings, charity events, and music festivals painted a picture of a relationship grounded in creative respect. He was in her acknowledgments, she was on his arm at galas, but behind the red carpet glow, something quieter was playing out. In recent years, Jillian opened up about personal struggles, fertility issues, cancer diagnoses, surgeries, and recovery. And while Scott was largely silent publicly, there were signs he was present behind the scenes. Still, not much is known about the strain or the strength of their marriage in those later years. When news broke that Jillian had been shot by police and arrested for attempted murder, the internet looked for Scott. Would he speak out? Would the band cancel shows? But Weezer played on. The silence was deafening. No public statements, no appearances together, just the image of a once polished partnership now splintered by flashing sirens and courtroom dates. What was really going on behind the closed doors of the Lauren Schreiner home? No one knows except maybe the two people who used to call it safe. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon, April 8th, 2025, when the calm in Los Angeles' Eagle Rock neighborhood shattered. The LAPD was in pursuit of suspects involved in a hit and run. The chase led officers through residential streets, eventually spilling into the yards and driveways of unsuspecting locals. Jillian Lauren's home happened to be caught in the chaos. According to police reports, the suspects had bailed from their vehicle and fled on foot. Officers spread out, searching nearby properties. That's when they spotted her. Jillian Lauren, author, mother, cancer survivor, was in the yard of a neighboring residence, armed with a 9mm handgun. Officers say they immediately shouted commands, "Drop the weapon, do it now," but Jillian didn't comply. Instead, police claim she raised the gun. What happened next was fast, frantic, violent. One of the officers fired a single shot, hitting Jillian in the shoulder. She retreated into her home, wounded. Tensions were sky high. Officers didn't know who she was or why she was armed. Was she protecting herself? Was she one of the suspects? Minutes later, Jillian emerged with her hands up. She surrendered without further incident. But by then, the damage was done. Paramedics arrived. She was transported to the hospital. And soon after, the official charge came down: attempted murder of a peace officer. She had no connection to the hit and run, no criminal background. But in the eyes of the law, she'd committed a serious crime. In a neighborhood shaken by sirens and helicopters, a respected author had just become the prime suspect in her own real-life tragedy. The confrontation between Jillian Lauren and the LAPD didn't just make headlines, it was captured in chilling detail thanks to body cam footage and police dispatch audio that quickly surfaced in the days following the incident. According to official LAPD statements, officers were combing backyards for suspects from a nearby hit and run when they encountered a woman later identified as Jillian Lauren holding a handgun. She was standing in the yard of a neighboring home just feet away from the officers. In the body cam footage, you can hear the tension in the officers' voices. Drop the weapon. Do it now. She's not listening, gun still in hand. Multiple commands were issued. Officers later testified that she appeared agitated and noncompliant. At one point, a voice in the background urgently radios in. Female suspects going to be wanted for Adwa Hanapa. Armed with a gun. Repeat armed female in Eagle Rock. Shots fired. Officer requesting medical. Seconds later, a single shot rings out. Jillian is hit in the shoulder. Chaos erupts, but she doesn't run far. She stumbles back into her house. The officers don't immediately follow. A standoff hangs in the air. According to LAPD, within minutes, Jillian re-emerged, this time with her hands raised. No more defiance, no more questions, just surrender. The evidence left behind was damning. A single spent shell casing, matching her weapon and corroborating video footage. Police allege that Jillian fired first, something she has yet to publicly confirm or deny. She was taken to the hospital under police custody. Her injuries were non-life-threatening, but the implications of those few seconds, those frantic radio calls, the shouted warnings, the flash of movement would define the rest of her life. In a split second, the hunter of serial killers had become the one surrounded by flashing lights, shouted orders, and the weight of criminal charges. This is the question on everyone's mind, the moment that turned a respected true crime author into a headline suspect. Was Jillian Lauren acting out of fear or aggression? According to the LAPD, Jillian emerged from her backyard holding a loaded 9mm pistol. Officers claim they clearly identified themselves and issued multiple warnings to drop the weapon. When she allegedly refused and even pointed the gun in their direction, they fired. But from Jillian's perspective, that part remains a mystery. She hasn't spoken publicly. No statement, no interview, no press release. What we do know is this: she had no connection to the hit and run that brought the police to her neighborhood in the first place. She wasn't a suspect. She wasn't harboring anyone. She just happened to be home when the chase came crashing into her reality. And here's where the case gets murky. Could she have believed the suspects were trying to break in? Could she have seen armed figures in her backyard and panicked? Maybe she didn't hear their commands. Maybe she didn't process who they were. Or maybe just maybe something snapped. This is where public opinion splits. To some, Jillian was a woman startled by chaos outside her home, reacting instinctively to defend herself. To others, she was reckless, irresponsible, even dangerous, mishandling a firearm in a highly volatile situation. Intent matters. Perception matters. And when the trigger gets pulled, there's no going back. Was she trying to protect her home from a threat? Or did she become the threat? The courtroom will demand an answer. The public may never get one. After the shooting, Jillian Lauren was rushed to a nearby hospital, bleeding from a gunshot wound to her shoulder. The injury was serious but not life-threatening. As she lay in recovery, LAPD officially booked her in absentia on suspicion of attempted murder of a peace officer. It was a surreal moment. A best-selling author known for interviewing serial killers and advocating for victims was now in custody, accused of a violent crime. Later that same evening, around 10 p.m., Jillian posted a $1 million bond and was quietly released. No public spectacle, no press conference, just silence. The timing was strange. Only weeks earlier, she had shared on Instagram that she was recovering from cancer surgery, a hysterectomy that left her physically and emotionally drained. She was supposed to be healing. Instead, she was headed for arraignment. And then nothing. No apology, no denial, no clarification, just a digital void. Her social media accounts, once used to share literary updates and reflections on motherhood and survival, went completely dark. Her husband, Weezer bassist Scott Schreiner, stayed silent too. The band played their scheduled Coachella set just days after the incident as if nothing had happened. For someone whose life was built on telling the truth, Jillian's silence became its own kind of statement. Just 2 months before the shooting, Jillian Lauren made a deeply personal announcement on Instagram. She had been diagnosed with cancer and had undergone a hysterectomy. The tone of her post was raw, reflective, and deeply emotional. She spoke of pain, exhaustion, and the long road of recovery ahead. For any person, a cancer diagnosis is life-altering. For Jillian, a woman already carrying the emotional weight of years immersed in violent, disturbing true crime stories, it may have been the final emotional overload. She had just begun the healing process when the shooting occurred. According to her posts, she was still recovering at home, likely dealing with hormonal shifts, physical pain, and the psychological impact of losing both health and control. Add to that the looming pressure of public life, a high profile marriage, and a career built on confronting trauma. It's not hard to imagine the toll it all took. Some mental health experts have speculated outside of official reports that post surgical complications, particularly involving hormones and emotional regulation, could have played a role in her perception and response to the events that day. Anxiety, fear, confusion, even panic. Was Jillian Lauren operating under duress? Was she scared, disoriented? Or was something deeper unraveling long before that April afternoon? She hasn't addressed any of this publicly, but her silence has only fueled questions. Was the woman who once documented others' descent into madness now slipping into her own? The lines between physical illness, emotional collapse, and criminal behavior are complex. And in Jillian's case, the courtroom won't just be examining what she did, but why she did it. The moment the news broke, true crime author Jillian Lauren charged with attempted murder, the media storm ignited like wildfire. Headlines exploded across every major outlet, not because of the charges alone, but because of who she was. Jillian Lauren wasn't just another name in the crime blotter. She was a best-selling author, a survivor, a mother, a woman who had once stared into the eyes of serial killers and walked away with stories that haunted the nation. Now, the storyteller had become the subject, and the irony wasn't lost on anyone. True crime podcasts, Reddit threads, and Twitter feeds lit up with disbelief. Fans who had praised her work on Behold the Monster, the very book that explored the mind of Samuel Little, were now revisiting passages, wondering if she had been dropping hints about her own unraveling all along. Was she foreshadowing something darker? Was her obsession with killers more personal than we realized? Some supporters rallied behind her, pointing to mental health, trauma, and the pressures of living in a high-profile world. Others were brutal, accusing her of hypocrisy, recklessness, even performative victimhood. Within the true crime community, the reaction was especially intense. Content creators who had once interviewed her or reviewed her books now debated how to handle the fallout. Do you separate the work from the person? Or does everything change when the writer crosses the line? What makes this case so gripping isn't just the crime, it's the collapse of a persona. Jillian Lauren, who had built a career humanizing killers, was now facing the ultimate judgment, not as an observer of crime, but as its alleged perpetrator. And the world, it's watching every update, every court date, every silence with morbid curiosity. The timing of the incident couldn't have been more surreal. Just days after Jillian Lauren was shot by police and arrested for attempted murder, her husband, Scott Schreiner, was preparing to step on stage with Weezer for one of the biggest shows of the year, Coachella 2025. Fans expected chaos, a cancelled appearance, a public statement, some sign that the band would acknowledge the firestorm erupting around one of their own. But what happened instead? Total silence. Weezer went on stage as scheduled. No mention of the shooting. No comment from Scott. No pause in the tour. To the public eye, it was business as usual: lights, music, and thousands of screaming fans, while the woman he married sat at home with a gunshot wound and a pending felony charge. For longtime fans of the band and followers of Jillian's, writing the silence hit like a cold front. Was Scott avoiding the media, protecting their privacy, or distancing himself from the scandal entirely? The rock world, typically quick to speak out on social issues, also remained unusually quiet. No tweets, no interviews, no shows of support or condemnation. It was as if no one wanted to touch the story. But in the corners of music blogs and Reddit threads, speculation buzzed. Was Scott blindsided by the incident? Had the couple been drifting apart? Or was this part of a deeper personal crisis they had kept hidden for years? As the festival lights faded and the setlists rolled on, one question lingered. Behind the amps and applause, what was really going on in Scott Schreiner's world? And how much longer could he keep performing like nothing had happened? Jillian Lauren is currently facing a serious and life-altering legal battle. The charge: attempted murder of a peace officer, a felony that could carry a lengthy prison sentence if convicted. According to LAPD reports, the case against her hinges on several key pieces of evidence. Bodycam footage from the officers present during the incident reportedly showing Jillian holding a firearm and refusing to comply with commands. Dispatch audio where officers can be heard warning of an armed female suspect and confirming that a shot was fired. A single spent shell casing recovered from her 9mm handgun, suggesting that she may have fired at least once. Police claim she raised her weapon and posed an imminent threat. Jillian, however, has yet to release any statement or offer her side of the story publicly. As of now, she's been released on $1 million bail, with her next court appearance scheduled for April 30th. Her legal team has not commented, and there's no confirmation of a formal plea yet. The judicial process will move forward hearings, discovery, and possibly a trial. The prosecution will argue intent and threat to law enforcement. The defense? That's still unclear. Will they claim self-defense, mental duress, a tragic misunderstanding? Whatever path this case takes, one thing is certain. Jillian Lauren won't be telling this story from behind a keyboard. She'll be living it from the defendant's chair. This is not the ending anyone saw coming. Jillian Lauren rose from a traumatic past, surviving exploitation, turning pain into memoir, and becoming a respected voice in the world of true crime. She gave a voice to the voiceless. She hunted serial killers. She looked into the abyss and made a career out of surviving it. But now that arc has shattered. From best-selling author to armed suspect, from empath to accused, from chasing justice to facing it. For years, she wrote about monsters, how they hide in plain sight, how society overlooks the broken, how trauma ripples through generations. But now those same themes are being whispered about her. Did the darkness she chased finally catch up with her? Or was she always on the edge, one moment, one mistake, one scream away from becoming the story she once told? It's a fall from grace so dramatic, so tragic, that it almost feels fictional. But it's not. This isn't a plot twist. This isn't a novel. this is real life. And the final chapter, still unwritten. She spent her life uncovering the truth about killers, but when the gun was in her own hand, the truth became harder to see. Jillian Lauren's story isn't over, and neither is the mystery. If you want to follow every twist in the cases that shock the world, hit subscribe to stay locked in with Crime Pulse stories where the truth always finds its voice.